Primarily Ableton Live. Everything runs through my laptop on stage and also in the studio. Just a really, it's a great format for collecting loops and putting everything together. Also using software, synthesizers, and if I'm using analog gear too, it's good for getting the analog into the computer. It's a great spider web of technology, and it's really not that complicated. It's as complicated as you want it to be. I have yet to get into Pro Tools and all that. I've used Pro Tools in real studio settings, but for home use and for constructing songs from the ground up, yeah, Ableton Live is where it's at. Well, we tried it this time. I work on a very verbal level with Sam Valenti, the owner of Ghost International. He's always been a big part of my music in the sense that I show him first runs and ideas of songs. So he was suggesting, let's maybe take some of this stuff that you do at home and bring it to the studio. And we went to a place called Effigy Studios in Ferndale, Michigan, a little bit north of Detroit. And I out-tracked all of my stuff, and we would run it through a big board and started remixing it. And what we found was that what I do at home fits more to my style, that it really didn't need to be touched up at all. And when we did try to touch it up, it almost became too clean and too polished. Excuse me. So my style of dirty production and really noisy, I like to capture a lot of air noise. Normally I'll leave a window open, or I'll leave an air conditioner running in the background, just because it should be there. I don't like being too clean. It's too easy to be too digitally pure in this day and age, and it just doesn't sound right to me. I like little mistakes being caught on the tape. So yeah, we found that the studio really wasn't the best place. I did do some vocals over again and some really nice microphones that I think added a bit to the dynamic of the album. And I was able to record guys like the Mobius Band, coming in and get some real amps mic'd up, and we did a bit of live drums that ended up on Midnight Lovers. Had that kind of mixed in on top of that track. But yeah, for the most part, everything was just done in my home studio and just pieced together by me. It's just called the A-Synth, A-Synth, and it emulates an old 70s prog synth. I forget what it is, I don't know, maybe the MS-20 or something. And it's real simple, but you can get some great tones and bass sounds are really low in frequency. I use the V Station, Novation V Station plugin a lot. I love that. It's just really warm, and a lot of my newer tracks have had that in it. And yeah, I mean that's what I recommend. Just people do is just it doesn't take thousands of dollars of gear to make good music, as long as you know what you want to sound like and you have the right combination of plugins. It's almost like I've gotten, it's almost like I've tried to get my studio smaller as I've gotten older. I've tried to eliminate the fluff. There's only about probably 4 synthesizers total that I use, and I've got my drum kit, my preferred kit, my samples and drum machines. And between all of it, I probably only use about 8 to 10 tracks of audio to make a song now. And I think that's the way it should be. Find what you're good at and hone in on it, and then try to just perfect the small things first. That you don't have to have tons of gear and cables, because I think it'll just get too cluttered and you might get too distracted. So I've just tried to find this limited direct approach to making it sound good, and that's what I try to do. They always start with a loop. They're always coming out of this growth of usually it's a rhythm first, percussion that I'll just make with electronics, and then I'll just start playing around with the guitar or synthesizers and start making different melodies and loops, and then it grows, the song grows, the sound grows, and then it might get to the point where I think of a melody in my head for lyrics that would go on top of it, and that's when I'll get out the microphone and start singing, and then I put that in there, and really that's how it builds for me. I don't sit around. When I was younger, I'd sit around with just an acoustic guitar and write a song that way, but I think nowadays I sing so much differently. I find different pentameters and rhythms of singing. if I make the music first, then when I just try to play it live and sing at the same time, my brain gets locked into the rhythm of my hands more. So really, it's better for me just to let the computer build the rhythm and build it there, and then come up with a crazy, rhythm on top of that with my voice. I've always analyzed music and picked it apart, and the Beatles was one of my first true loves of really getting into music and listening to production techniques. So I was probably like in my early teens, 13, 14 years old. And if you listen to obviously Yellow Submarine, when Ringo's singing, there's different voices. There's like the normal, we all live in a yellow submarine. And then if you listen below, I don't know if it's John or somebody, but you can hear this, we all live in a yellow submarine. Like, and it's back there, and it totally changes the sound of it. But if you heard it by itself, it's not the melody of the song. But if you heard it alone, or heard it paired up with these other voices, it just makes this really eerie, catchy, harmonic to the voice. And I guess I just learned from that kind of thing, just listening to other bands and other producers. And that's how I make my music. It just add a little weirdness underneath it all, and I think it really stands out a bit more. When I first started doing this, I think Leave Luck to Heaven was based more on the first wave of this kind of minimal comeback or whatever. It was based on a lot of the first German labels like Clang and Perlon, early Perlon stuff, early Playhouse, which was I think very busy, but also quite direct. But I think I was more into the experimental end of it. I wasn't trying to make dance floor bass tracks. I was trying to make more, I guess, audibly interesting tracks. So I was putting different rhythms in there and little bits and pieces. But I thought that at the time, I thought, that, oh man, like this isn't what I want to sound like. I would make songs, and at the end, after the album would come out, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm ready for the next thing, because this is old stuff. And I think now I'm getting more to a point where I'm still very happy with the songs on Asa Breed. So it's getting to the point now where I'm more aligned with what's actually coming out, where I think then I was still learning how to make music at the same time. I'm always learning. I mean, I'll never stop learning how to make music, but there was a bigger drift in between the time it would come out and my appreciation for the music. Whereas now it's getting a bit more up to speed. I'm really happy with it still, and I think yes, streamlining it, listening more to rock music, getting more of a backbeat down, just a simple straight ahead drum beat, and then letting the melodics and the little synthesizers and more of the chords and the voice take over in terms of, I guess, the busyness. In the beginning, I knew that I wanted Audion to become more of the techno-based, outlet. And then stuff under my own name, and now is becoming more experimental pop with the vocals. I don't want to do song-based material as Audion. And in the beginning, Audion was just a bit aggressive. It was just very aggressive techno, and then I was doing normal techno under my own name. But now it's definitely going to be Audion for all dance-based, tracks on Spectral. False has kind of become this outlet for my more experimental techno. So it's a bit more subversive and dark and twisted, and I think the new album definitely reflects that, and it's more of a roller coaster of sounds as well as tracks. Yeah, and then stuff under my own name is just going to be the song based material from now on. Hopefully it'll just get known that the music I make as myself is going to have lyrics. It's going to be the verse chorus verse format, and it'll go from there. Yeah. There was a friend of my brother's. He had two friends that were twins, and I think they had taken a trip to Japan one summer, and then they came back, their senior year of college or high school, and brought back a lot of this music. And I think that's where my brother said they first really started getting into some of this stuff. And I was into Depeche Mode, and it's new wave acts like this that really just kind of opened my ears to electronic music as a youngster. That I knew I liked anything with synthesizers and electronic sounds. It just sounded very otherworldly to me. I would listen to it and just escape and feel like I was somewhere else entirely. And I started getting into some acts, some more commercial acts. As I was growing up, But then when I was about 19, after I had moved to the Michigan area and attended my first official warehouse party in Detroit, I think that's when the light kind of clicked and I realized, oh, wait a minute, there's a DJ and he's playing all of this stuff together at once. And oh, yeah, I see the 1,000 people dancing to it and, the light show and the video. And it all just kind of clicked. And I realized then that I wanted to make, dance music per se. And then I've been doing that ever since. And I think now I'm just kind of getting back into, my first love of just making weird pop music, which is what I had started doing before I started making techno tracks, guitar stuff and just little stuff at home. I used to have a 4-track recorder that my dad had gotten me, and I had like synthesizers and guitars and would just lay down crazy little tracks and didn't know anything about genreification or where I was trying to put this music. I was just making strange little songs, and now I'm finally getting back to that, yeah. Unfortunately, I've been a little bit too busy to listen to much lately, but throughout the course of this album, I was listening to a lot of older stuff. I think a lot of Brian Eno productions, um, Talking Heads, some David Byrne solo stuff, a lot of Bowie as well. Arthur Russell, I'm a big fan of Arthur Russell. I'm trying to find as much of his stuff as I can. And I guess some contemporaries that I really like listening to would be Animal Collective, LCD Sound System, what James Murphy's doing. Uh, I like the Panda Bear project that was kind of an offshoot of the Animal Collective. But yeah, I really don't listen to too much new stuff. Try to get the live show out to as many places as we can. I would love to tour it. I think through the U.S. in October, and I'd love to come back maybe next year in Europe, UK, do a proper tour with a bigger band, with a visual setup and all this stuff. Right now, we got some sites set hopefully in Japan and Australia, and early next year. It would be cool to take it there, and then work on as much music as I can in the off time. Get the next album ready. I tend to work in this overlapping method. I'd say I have probably 3 or 4 or 5 songs ready for the next album. So I just got to keep it going, and I like it to keep as up to date as I can with my releases, and really cut down on the lag between when I make the song and when it finally comes out. I'd love to just do a series of singles or something, kind of old style. Just put out some singles and not really worry about an album per se, and then make the next album next year or 2009. I always knew that I'd be a musician, ever since I was 14 years old when I first started playing guitar. It's just what I wanted to do. And there hasn't been a day that's gone by in terms of, if I logged up all the hours I've spent working on music since I was 14, I could average it out to at least an hour a day, since I've been 14, that I've actually touched a computer or a piece of machinery or a guitar that would make music. It's just what I do. Like, if you know that that's what you're going to do, just do it, and I went to university. I got a degree, and I've had jobs. I delivered pizza for 6 years trying to make music. So it's like you don't have to just. It doesn't happen immediately. It just happens gradually. And as long as people see you doing what you love to do, then there's no question that you're going to do what you love. In terms of actual production, just find your own sound. Don't worry about sounding like somebody else. Don't worry about imitating other people. But it's good practice. I think I grew up a lot of times mimicking certain sounds. I'd make a progressive trance song just to see if I could do it. To like try to teach myself some different techniques I normally wouldn't use. And yeah, just mess around with it. Never use what you're given. Don't stick to the programs that you're given. You really get into there and edit stuff and change it. You don't have to use, a kick, hi-hat, snare to make, a beat. Use a bang on a desk, a click of a bowl, and a book falling on the floor. Like sample those sounds. Make it your own. And a lot of times you'll trick people, and they won't know what they're listening to, but they'll know it sounds different and unique. So I guess just strive to be unique, and stand out in this ever-growing world of electronic producers and musicians, where you know, everybody's got a computer and anybody can make music, but it still takes creativity and a bit of standing out to really, you know, appeal to people.